Boom.
Biddly, 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 but yes, yo, here we go. Ain't nobody down round here. The transfer window is finally closed. We've got a correction to do. We're starting with a correction, but before we do that, you know what time it is. Get that budget in and on and over here. He's in, he's on, he's over, he's here. I had to move back to get his greatness in. I'm very well aware that the clock watchers are in. This video might linger on a little bit too long for the clock watchers, but it's all Leeds United based. I don't know what people want from me. The correction is, it's not the legendary MVP, as I have learned that is a wrestler, and my eyes deceived me and I read what I wanted to see. But I'm slightly more awake now because I'm on my second iced latte because I've got the app on Costa, and if you get 10, which I get with the meal deals, you get a free one. So I'm certain to go to the services to make full money back on that. So yes, they're getting me in for the Costa on the meal deal, but I'm getting the expensive iced latte, which is so pointless. But in my mind, I feel like I'm winning, so it just is what it is. But the correction is it's the legendary MVG. So shout out to the legendary MVG for handing out subscriptions, prescriptions, jurisdictions like it's Christmas, my guy. Farke has been Farke quick shit vid. That's what we're all here for. The clock watchers will be going crazy now, and by now. We're a minute and a half in. I'm so very sorry before I've mentioned Farke. We've talked about coffee for too long. Farke's been on fire in presser. He's just done his press conference a few hours ago. I love him when he's on point. I think he talks a lot, but he does also talk a lot of sense. He was quite subdued. I think he's happy that the window's over. He did predict a quiet window. He answered the first question nice and long. It gets boring to me, both his answer and the way that, you know, the interviewers try and sort of press him into saying certain stuff. They always feel like the slide digs in there, even when they leave it. So he answered it really long right at the start, and he just said, hopefully this just, and then we don't have to talk about it. You know, basically just fucking leave him alone at this point. Nobody's come in. Get over it. It's just stop talking. You stop asking me about it. He's not going to answer, so you're just wasting everybody's time watching him. Just sat there like, why are we asking? You're just rephrasing the same question, but it's full of slide digs. So a guy 20 minutes later goes, obviously, when we play Sheffield United, who've now signed 7 further players, will that alter your process of dealing? You know, how are you going to know? Well, he's going to know as much as Wilder knows about them 7 new players, isn't he? They've been indoor as long as Farke knows about them. So it just feels like a slide dig, like Sheffield United are up to this madness because they've got 7 new players. Nobody wanted 7 new players. Granted, you know, I was saying like I'd have been up for a number 9 or a number 10. Wasn't too fussed about the centre-back, wasn't fussed about the keeper. It's all stuff for the future, and wasn't worried about the left back when we were apparently after target and stuff. It just feels, it's just frustrating. He said in the interview that I tried to be kind and friendly, and I'm aware that you're all going to sort of ask me the same questions, but he's got a lot more patience with them than I do, that is for certain. You've got a lot more patience than me, sir. Farke. He said that he trusts the group. After 30 games, we're top 63 points. He doesn't see one reason why this club group of players shouldn't finish in the top position, which obviously, you know, I wholeheartedly agree with. He says that he doesn't need to use January, which I agree with. Nothing's guaranteed whether we sign players or we don't. If nobody comes up, they're not coming in. What I would say, because I don't want people thinking that, you know, I'm like against some sort of like bringing someone in. I don't really think, you know, the loan to buy really works. Like, you know, I think there's an element of risk to that. I think it's a bit sticky because you really only want a loan in. And to be fair, Farke said this in his interview, if you're getting a Premier League footballer, he's either not getting game time, he's coming back from injury, or he's fallen out with manager. There's something not quite right. There's a reason why, you know, he's either not at the quality of a Premier League side, or is, as I say, personal reasons, or he's coming back from an injury. So why else would they really want a loan move? And then the loan to buy, he's not necessarily any of them 3 things, but really the team looking to offload the player. And if we're off into the Prem and they're looking to offload the Prem player, you haven't really got the Prem player, have you? You've got you've got the offload, which, you know, I think we can get the offloads when we get to the Prem. I don't think it's absolutely necessarily now, you know. Once we become a Premier League team, then you get better offloads that you go higher up the league. But basically, somebody from the top 8's not going to want to come to Leeds United, are they, right now? So we'd have had to been looking lower down through the league, which is what we were doing, looking at Southampton players, etc. But what I would say about the 49ers, and I'm keen to say all the time that they work in silence, and I think it's really good that they're like that. I got played a little bit in the way that Farke came out in his press conference a couple of weeks ago when we were sort of, I think, maybe 2/3 through the transfer window in January. January doesn't come out of nowhere. It's not like it just pops up and they go like, oh, fucking hell, who's available? Like, have you realised it's 1st of January, like you've just opened Champ Manager and you realise it says on you get an email and it says transfer window's now open and you're like, fuck, and then you don't click continue game because you're just searching through every single player, just putting bids in left, right and centre like a maniac. What they tend to do, in my opinion, is they bleed a little bit out, a little bit of information out. So when it comes to Kinnear talking to Square Ball, which, whatever, he goes on there and talks to them. They've got a decent enough relationship with them, haven't they? So he'll go talk to them for some reason. But he'll say, oh, well, we were looking at Buendia. And if we're all honest, we knew Buendia wasn't coming in. We all knew that, didn't we? And I know it's easy in hindsight, but we did. And so he'll mention Buendia, and then he'll mention Archie Gemmell, or whatever he's called, this Archie fella. Archie will mention that, and then he'll mention this £10 million bid for Joseph that they rejected from Real Betis and stuff. I just think that it whiffs a bit of shit. I think it's all a bit of bollocks. It's like, there may very well have been a bid in for Joseph, but it all just seems like, look, we're strong, we're retaining play. It's like appeasing the fan base because people buy it. Whereas, and I'm up for it, but I just don't need to be lied to. I've said 1,000 times before that they don't need to explain themselves to me like how they're going about running the club. As long as it's financially stable and they're running it well, I don't really give a shit. Obviously, I want better players in, always, like I'm sure Farke does. But in terms of, I don't need to know, you don't need to appease me. I'd rather they came out at start at window and just went, look, we're not looking. Very unlikely we're going to bring anybody in. Kind of how Farke started, but just as the chairman, just be like, yeah, man, I'm not a Dumbo. Believe me, if you think we're not looking, you're a Dumbo. We're looking. If nobody comes in, nobody comes in. If somebody comes up, they'll come in. If they're better, they'll come in. If Farke likes them, they'll come in. If they just said that, you don't have to give me this shit about, oh, well, we looked at Buendia and we looked at Archie Gemmell and we rejected a £10 million bid for Joseph. It's like, did you? Or is this sort of like, do you have some sort of a relationship with Real Betis and you said, here, do us a favour and just pretend you're chucking 10 million at Joseph, will you? Like, they maybe shown a bit of interest at the start of the season for him. Just give us something to sort of appease everybody with. So, he also said, to be fair to him, did Farke, that it's difficult to sign players when you're top at league. We're all talking about them other teams strengthening, but they're not. This idea that they're catching us up, I'm done with it now. It's over. The window's over. We didn't sign anybody. We're a really strong side. We could have done with some backup for Aronson. He mentioned that Farke's not worried about Aronson burning out whatsoever. He says he's full of energy. He says he's like a bee around the place. It's more about like trying to chill him out than anything else. Obviously, he could get injured, but I actually think we're all right. Ultimately, these boys have got to go get the job done, haven't they? This is where we're at now. Farke's the best manager in the league. We still have the best squad in the league. And as I was just saying, I don't think it even matters. Even if we're all banging on about these brilliant players that have allegedly gone to Sunderland, even West Brom have got a couple of players, Sheffield, Burnley, whatever. Burnley can't score goals. If they start winning 1-0, they start winning 1. All we have to do, and particularly once we get Sunderland and Sheffield out of the way, we just have to beat a load of teams that haven't got anywhere closer to us. So it doesn't really matter. We're not in competition with them anymore. We're too far into the season. We're not in direct. We don't need the best squad in the season. Even if they was to be stronger than us now, which they're not, and nobody would argue they're not. This idea that you're just a couple of injuries away from being shit, I don't agree with. I think we've negotiated every single injury we've had this year. We lost Ampadu and Gruev at one point. We've lost Firpo for weeks. We've lost players this season. We've lost Struijk, Strike, and we've winning 7-0, boys. So, we're strong enough in there. Ampadu played against one of the better sides. I know they're defensive Burnley, but that were a 0-0 draw. Ampadu's good at back. We're not desperate for nobody. They aren't catching us up, is my point. It's a pointless point. We need to focus on us winning. Just focus, and I don't just mean winning games. Focus on the win, on where the win. Don't worry about, if you think other teams are winning, that doesn't mean you're losing. Do you know what I mean? And I mean that in life as well. I don't want to get sort of weirdly philosophical or whatever, but if you just worry about your wins, if you're worried about somebody else's win, you're going to lose. Worry about your wins, never about somebody else's win. I care about my wins. I care about Leeds' wins. I care about our wins. I don't care about his wins and their wins and, you know, Pat Butcher's wins. It don't bother me. 7-0 ultimately is all I'm saying. So ultimately, to summarise, I don't really give a shit whether other teams have strengthened or not. At this point, it doesn't matter. Don't focus on the other teams. We're better than them all anyway. But even if we won, even if they've caught us up, 7-0. 7-0, 7-0, 7-0. 63 points after 30 games. We're top. My man Facke can't see one reason why we don't go straight up. They aren't catching us. I'm confident. Big game tomorrow. I will be live for the game. I feel like I've seemed subdued in this video, but it's just a correction video. Like, this is where we're at. This is what we've got. If, for instance, if we'd have signed Ramazani, let's pretend Ramazani's not played a minute, and Farke had told you that he was probably going to come in and play as a 10, you'd all be zinging like a tower burger. So it just is what it is. If Ramazani ends up being a 10 because Aronson picks up an injury, we'll have to negotiate. We'll have to get through them moments. We will get through them moments. Ain't nobody down round here. Nobody do it how we does it. Take it easy, everybody. Coventry tomorrow. Let's get Fat Fwank slapped up. Yeah, boy.
The way they've been, the results they've had, 1 defeat in 13. I've got Muppets from Leeds talking about pressures on us and Bamford and Forshaw and a couple of others, and it's over to you and this, that and the other. They got beat 7 times since Christmas. We've been beaten once. We've set it up from Christmas to be in the race.
Boom.
JackCity, bitch. JackCity, bitch. Hey!
I don't wanna play no games. No, I don't wanna play no games. No, I don't wanna hear your promises. You do you and I'll do me. That's just the way it is. Don't wanna ever feel surprised. That's why I ask no.